You okay?
What the hell are you doing here? You live here or something?
Yeah, I got a flat next door.
Next door's a brothel.
Yeah.
So on this week's episode of Be More Super, we've got a great guest from my new favourite show, because I joined the party late, from The Expanse. We've got Wes Chapman. Wes, thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here. So you're new to the show?
You know what? I had Thomas Jane on last year, and I interviewed him for The Punisher and Deep Blue Sea, and he started talking about The Expanse, and I had seen it advertised, and I never got around to seeing it because, you know, being a parent, working, I never got the time to get in front of the TV, and then I started to watch it, and I couldn't stop watching it. It's just immense. It is the best sci-fi series I have ever watched to date, and I never want it to end. And I'm sure that I'll keep on watching it on repeat if that day ever came. But thank you so much.
Are you all caught up now?
I am. I'm on episode 8 of this season, and oh my God, it's getting so good. You know, that journey from season 1.
I can't wait to see what you think about episode 9, which comes out Wednesday. It's my favorite of the whole.
Is it really? Because we'll talk about obviously the episode 8 and your journey. But Wes, what is the secret sauce of The Expanse? Why is it so popular? Why is it done so well?
It's one of those things. That's a great question, and it's something that it's an intangible thing. So I remember I was at Comic-Con for the Hunger Games, and I remember James Ezekiel had a booth there, and they had those books. And I'm a sci-fi fan, I'm into, and a friend of mine told me about the books. Have you heard about these books? And was telling me about it. And I immediately, something about it was really interesting to me, and it really got my attention. Cut to, I get the script, I get the pilot script, and I read it, and I had that same special feeling right away when I read the script. And convincing that your team in the people involved that you work with, that this is that I think this is going to be great. This is going to be something special. They at that time, they didn't have enough information. All they had was this pilot, or they didn't seem as excited about it as I was. And then so going to work and shooting this thing, and we always believed in it, and we always loved it, and I was a true fan of it, and I knew it was and so for what happened to the show now, and it's almost mind-blowing. And in some ways you had this special feeling about it, and you can never really put your finger on like what makes something special or what doesn't, but I know that there was something about the books that resonated with me. There's something in the universe, that I knew that it was a story that I wanted to be a part of. It was a story that I wanted to tell. And I felt very fortunate and grateful to be able to be a part of it. And, so when we started shooting it, and then what happened to it in season 3, and then coming back in season 4 and come on with Amazon, and then all of a sudden, it opening up like this, it's such a blessing and such a fun thing to be a part of.
And this is what I don't get, is that, having watched it, in quite a short period of time, up to season 3, and then all of a sudden it gets cancelled. I just don't get the networks. I don't get why they cancel such a good show. But when it did get cancelled, how did that make you feel?
What's really interesting, again, I had this feeling that it wasn't over. And again, like to answer your point about, why something is canceled, why it doesn't get canceled, there's so many politics, there's such a bureaucracy involved, and there's ownership issues between the studio and the network that was actually airing it. And so there's all these internal battles that are going on. Meanwhile, you got this show, that's really finding its feet, and that's really getting better and really, catching on with this solid and phenomenal fan base. And then when it happened the way that it happened, it just didn't. I still had that feeling. I still had that good feeling about it, that I knew it was something special, and it ended up in a lot of ways being the best thing that ever happened to the show.
Yeah.
And the press and the activity around getting canceled attracted a lot of people to the show. So then when we got this new platform, we had this strong foundational fan base that was totally supportive of us, and then you start building off that.
Mm.
Um, and and that's kind of how it happened. So it was this perfect storm of events that really launched the show in ways that just blows all of our minds.
And obviously the fans came out in force and protested, and Amazon took the show on. Did you notice a difference in the production side of things once Amazon came on, or was it completely all the same as from season 3 going into season 4?
I do think, well, obviously there was the obvious things where we didn't have any restrictions. I do, I'm a big fan. Like, I don't like commercials. I don't like breaking up the story, with that. And it just felt like a lot more freedom to really tell the story that we wanted to tell, to create the edge in the world that's there. But it also felt as if there was a lot more support in all kinds of
Mm.
different ways. And then, it was really having a team around you that truly believed in the show. And I'm not saying that it wasn't like that in the beginning, but this is something that you could really feel, and also had the resources to really back the show up. So, it's the perfect home for the Expanse,
Mm.
and I'm just so glad and so grateful to be there.
So the reason why I actually subscribed to Amazon Prime was because of The Expanse, which I'm very happy about. But you play Amos Burton, which is my favourite character in the whole of the show. It really is.
You
If you
say,
could
"I'm gonna go
explain.
back and watch Thomas Jane's episode," and you better not tell him he's his favorite. No, I'm just kidding.
No, because you know what? I didn't know much about The Expanse back then, or we would have spoken about it. He did ask to come back on the show, so I think I'm going to get him back on at some point. But I've got to say, when I interviewed him, he answered the video call. I thought he was naked and he was smoking a pipe, and literally I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to look. But he was an absolute star to speak to. Really was. So. Back to you, Wes. So you play Amos Burton, this amazing character. If you could sum up what your character is about and who he is for anyone that hasn't watched The Expanse yet and under those rocks.
I wish that I could tell you I was freaked out, but I'm not.
Not even a little.
I haven't felt fear since I was 5 years old.
Man, I wish I could go through life without feeling fear.
No. You don't.
I would say that Amos is somebody that was born and raised and forged in the post-apocalyptic future side of the mean streets of Baltimore, and he had to deal with a tremendous amount of abuse and trauma growing up. And so he is kind of it kind of deadened him in a way to his senses and to his connection and sense of empathy, and he had to be this way in order to survive. And so now that he's out in the world, he doesn't really understand morality as it is, or he doesn't understand, really what is right or what is wrong. All he knows how to do is survive, and whatever's in the way of that survival, he'll do whatever it takes to get through that. And knowing that it can be difficult to live in a world like this, and there's a lot of things, he starts to find people that he can kind of connect to and understand, how to live in the world and live in it as effect without doing the things that he's done. But but in terms of what he wants is very simple. He likes his work, being out in space and working on the spaceship and having a small crew and intimate people around him, that's happiness to him. That is his ultimate goal. That's what he wants. And every now and then the station and be able to visit the brothels and have, have a few whiskeys. That's all he wants. And so being a part of the Rossi and that being part of his inner tribe, his inner circle, Holden's always pulling his ass into all these greater, macro events and wars and ring gates and stuff like that. And he goes along because he wants to protect his family, his tribe, his crew, but he doesn't have any ideals or high-minded desires or macro ideas of what the world should be. He's like, just leave me alone and I'll leave you alone. That's kind of how he looks at it.
And your character, I've got to say, from season 1 to season 5 now, your character arc has been incredible. And season 5, we see you go back to Baltimore, and we see a lot more inside of Amos, a lot more that's made him potentially be the way he is. How excited was you to find out that, in season 5, we were going to explore Amos a lot more?
Well, my goal, when we first started the whole project was to get to season 5. We had all those books available, and very early on, I'm like you. When I started reading the books, Amos was I thought, the character that I was most interested in, and that was what I wanted. When I read the pilot, that was definitely what I wanted to explore and be a part of. And in doing that, I came across the churn very early on, before even we started season 1. And the churn is really the foundation, because if you kind of, if you look at the books and then you look at the pilot or how things are written, not every writer that is involved has read the churn. I mean, of course, James S. Corey, they wrote the churn, and so them and I were very in line with what we wanted Amos to be. But once you started the show, there's other writers, there's other producers, other people involved, and they might not have that same vision or that same narrative. And so, in the beginning, you just fight really hard that, this is the type, sending everybody the churn and like, this is the character I want to create. And this ultimately are the seeds of the arc we're going to plant that will come to fruition if we get to season 5 and we go back to Baltimore. And that was kind of the gamble and the thing that you're betting on, because in the beginning, the building of Amos's arc and his character was very subtle, and it was very, one foot in front of the other. And it's so creatively satisfying to play the character in that way, because you do all the work, you do all the research, and who Amos is, just how he behaves on screen. He's not constantly talking about himself or letting these things go forward. So it's kind of hidden, but people start to notice, something's wrong with this guy. Something's off. He's not when you first see him, you're like, oh, I get it. I know who he is. He's that guy in the group. He thinks he's a tough guy, whatever. But then as it starts going, you realize like, oh, Amos, he doesn't have an ego in that way. He's not trying to be the tough guy. That's not what comes out. He's just trying to survive. And so, there's no confrontation. If it's easier to take you out while you're sleeping.
I'm not gonna lie to you. Either way this plays out, you're dead.
That's going to happen, so there's no moral walls that he has, ahead of him. And in the beginning, he was a tribe of 2, him and Naomi. And then over time, it started to grow for the rest of the Rocinante. And yeah, so I'm endlessly fascinated by him. And, the fact that, even thinking about, how many seasons I've gotten to play him, and I still get excited and I still get butterflies, because there's still so much to explore and so much to learn about him.
And are we going to find out any more about Amos in the future, in future episodes?
Yes.
Excellent. That is good to hear, because you know what? It's sort of, I think we've just, watching it, scratched the surface. And he is such a fascinating creature. He really is. And there are glimpses of, I would say, kindness there. Only glimpse. And personally, from season 1, you're seeing little bits of the softer side of him in certain circumstances, but then he's got a very hard wall there when He needs to have it there. So I'm looking forward to that. So what's been your favorite storyline so far for Amos? To play.
I mean, I think, in terms of seasons and the arcs of the seasons, I think season 5, hands down. I think going back to Baltimore, so, every year when I start to prepare and start to get ready for the season, I always go back and read the churn. I always kind of orient myself around, that is the foundation that I kind of build it off of. And early on, I gave the churn to a psychologist, and we kind of sat down and talked about how would this manifest in an adult. How would these behaviors be? And we kind of explored, all the medical issues that one might have if they were dealing with trauma on this level. And so then you put that in the character, you put that in the work, and then every year, the Baltimore is in my imagination. All the people in Amos's life, they all live in my imagination. So then going to season 5 and actually going to the place that I've been imagining for 6 years, and seeing Lydia and seeing young Amos and seeing the Baltimore, the streets of Baltimore, and it was pretty surreal, and it was really powerful, and all that hard work really came together. As we're filming this right now and we're talking, episode 9 comes out on Wednesday, and I think that's probably my favorite episode of the whole series so far.
I can't wait. So how did it feel like going from like a set in like Toronto to on the streets of Baltimore? Because it was quite a refreshing change from seeing, like, obviously being on the spaceships as such, to actually being on location. How was that for you? Because the locations were amazing. They really were.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like, at first it felt like I was on a different movie. I mean, I showed up and I didn't have, my first day of shooting was that amazing scene of where they're flying into Baltimore and you see Amos on the street and he's walking through, and I didn't have, my Amos coveralls. I didn't have, the Rossi crew. I didn't have the Rossi. I didn't have all the people around me, and it was just I was kind of by myself, and showed up and there was hundreds of extras, and we're all on the streets and downtown, and it just didn't feel like the Expanse. And it was pretty, it was a crazy moment, but then that kind of, what I was going through as an actor was very similar to what Amos was going. He hasn't been, without the Rossi for years. He hasn't been without the Rossi crew for years. And, going back on his own and going back to Baltimore and experiencing that for the first time. So I just kind of allowed it to be that. And then it ended up being one of the most fun seasons I've ever shot on the Expanse. And every season's been fun. This is a very fun show to shoot.
Yeah. Well, I can tell that. I mean, it's amazing. But, for me, obviously, seeing you from season 1, with Naomi, she's your sort of compass, I suppose, where she sort of keeps you in check, doing right from wrong, and now you're not with them. It's quite interesting to see, because obviously your relationship with Peaches, for instance, in season 5, she has been written off by so many people for past events, but yet you are coming across as the knight in shining armor. I mean, what is that connection between you and Peaches? I mean, what is Amos's thought around it all?
Well, he says to her that the world is messed up and sometimes it can mess you up and it can make you do, bad things. The things that Amos has done in his life is very bad, could be considered really terrible things, and murder. I mean, he's, so once he gets to know Clarissa, the season when we bring her back to Earth, and which takes place off that you don't see, but when we bring her back to Earth, we spend 6-7 months together with her working in the machine shop as we transport her back to Earth. And during that time, I get to know her, and I realize she's not a bad person. She's not, there's not an evil bone in her body. She was completely confused by her manipulative father and completely starved for any kind of love or approval, and it made her go crazy. She did, these really horrible things, which
Mm.
in the right situation, we all can do horrible things. And when he goes back to Baltimore, it reminds him of his, relationship with Lydia, who basically saved him and directed him away from uh, the kind of, person which could have been very dark that he could have been. And so when he goes back and rediscovers Lydia and his relationship, it kind of makes him think of Clarissa and thinking, she doesn't have anybody and she's completely alone. And not only does she not have anybody, she thinks she's this terrible person. I've done the things that she's done, and I'm free, and I'm on the Rossi and all this, so I don't really know what I'm gonna do or how to do it, but at least let me just go see her. I just wanna see her.
Mm.
And then
Mm.
when I end up going to see her, obviously Marco's attacks happen in the prison or whatever, and then I'm like, I'm gonna get her. I'm going to get her out of here. I'm gonna get her into
Mm.
a safer place. And then through that journey, we started connecting, we started bonding, and then Amos is very loyal to the people and he has a very small circle and it's hard to get in there, but once you get in
Mm.
there, you're in there. And so through that journey that they had, she ended up connecting to him. They connected in a way that he saw her in his circle and his, what he wants in the Rossi family. And what's really interesting too, and what I think is great about Amos and their relationship is that Amos, so obviously, he's a man and she's a woman, and they're really, they take care of her intimate. But Amos knows that he's not on a relationship side. He does not have the equipment that she needs. He cannot give her the intimacy. He can't give her love. He can't give her those things, but he can be a friend. He can be solid to her.
Mm.
So he doesn't cross that line because he knows how messed up she is, and then what he's willing to give is that'll mess it up even more.
Mm.
So that is kind of, if you look at it from that level, because people are watching and be like, oh, this is going to be romance or anything. And, but if you really look at it, it's like, he knows that it would end up hurting her
Mm.
and it wouldn't be good for her. I mean, think about what happened to his last girlfriend
Yeah,
in season
yeah.
4,
And and
and
and I,
so I thought that was just such a great choice.
mm.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I was going to say, is Amos capable of having a relationship, because he seems so separated from that, and it would be nice to see him connect with Peaches in that way, because there's something definitely there that fans are talking about. But I suppose, you know if he's damaged, if he's incapable of those connections, because we're yet to discover more of his backstory that might explain it, which we're all looking forward to. The work on the show is absolutely stunning, I've got to say. The work that the writers, visual special effects, and everything like that is just unbelievable. I mean, it's jaw dropping. I mean, how does it feel like being on the set? Because the amount of detail that there is on set, does it blow your mind every time you step foot there?
Yeah, it blows my mind, and I think you know to be a part of something. I remember when Steven and I were first talking, and before we were at the table read for episode 1, season 1, and we're kind of talking about our goals and like what we wanted to achieve. And I said to him, growing up, I was so moved by stories, movies, and television and plays, and it just really swept me up. And every now and then you come across something like the first Indiana Jones or like Terminator, like something,
Yeah.
and you come across something and you're like, this is great. I mean, it like when I say great, I mean, like Space Odyssey 2001, like this is great and it is important to me. And all these things were so important in my life. I mean, and in some ways they were my best friends growing up. And, and I think that's one of the things that attracts us when you get older to this career, and to be able to tell these stories. But what I said to him is like, I just wanted to be a part of something that made other people feel the way that these great things made me feel. And that's all. That's my goal. That's what I want to do and everything. And so being a part of the Expanse, and I feel as if this is my dream, is to be a part of something that affects people in a way that I was affected growing up with these things that I loved.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've got to say, one of my favorite scenes so far is when you're with Chrissy, as you call her, and she turns around and says, "I'm a member of Parliament, not your favorite stripper," and then you turn around and say, "You could be both." For me, that is typical Amos. I just think it's amazing. What has been your favorite scene to film that's actually made you chuckle, that you've really enjoyed doing?
There you go. Now you just walk around like you're in pumps.
How do you know what it's like to walk in pumps?
I didn't always work in space.
I mean, that's one of them. I love I love his relationship with Avasarala. But the thing about the Expanse, and we all been working together for so long, and we're such close friends that we're laughing all the time. We're chuckling all the time, and everything is a lot of fun. But I also his name is Boomer. I can't remember I'm trying to remember the character's name. The big guy with
Yeah.
the shaved head. What's his name? The character's name. Anyway, so that guy was hilarious, like stand-up comedian funny. I think he is a stand-up comedian, actually.
Yeah.
And that whole sequence of working with them, and out there on that amazing and epic set and everything, and I mean, he just had me laughing the whole time. So I miss having him on set.
He looked very, very intimidating, and I love the scene where he's banging on the cell doors, and then the cell doors open, and he's just like, "Hi guys, what's going on?" And it's just literally, I just think was hilarious. So let's talk about working with Thomas Jane. What was he like to work with? Because he played Detective Miller, and he also directed episode 3. But am I right in saying, because you know what, I do watch your show after every single episode with the Ty and the other guy. Yeah, on YouTube. And you mentioned that. See, I can't remember. Is it episode 3 he directed?
Yeah, he directed it. I'm not in that episode.
But working with him, because you have some amazing scenes. One scene was when you have a bit of a tumble with him.
So, if you need to square up, you know where I am. Otherwise, you should move on, because you're poisoning the air.
And you slam him onto the table, which I thought was great. What was he like to work with? Is he as nice as he seems?
Yeah, I mean, Thomas. I consider Thomas a good friend, and I love Thomas. And what's great about Thomas is, it's being in this business and working, and you get to work with all these different actors. And when people have been there for a long time, there is an awareness of the business, and sometimes it doesn't do the greatest things to people's personality or the way they see themselves. Thomas is completely free of that. It's almost like he doesn't even see, that thing about him. He's just a good guy. He's just a really sweetheart of a guy. He's really intelligent. And like us, he's a massive fan of all of these things, sci-fi. So when I met Thomas, we met him working together, but when I really had a chance to talk to him, I remember we were eating together, and I wanted to go see this Canelo fight, and I said, I'm gonna go see this fight. He goes, I'll go with you. And so we ended up walking like 3 miles to go find a bar where this fight was at, and then we got in this great conversation about movies and film and directors and And Thomas is also a writer, and he's also a producer. He's also a director, and so we just loved the same things, and we have so many things in common. Also, we both love Stephen King. I mean,
Yeah.
we're huge Stephen King fans, and so we talked about him for hours, and um so we really connected and clicked, on that thing. And so, then now I check on him all, I go to LA, and, we went to, we go to dinner, and we just, stay in touch. And he was doing that, he was doing Tying That Guy after show with Amazon, which we're actually now doing we're going to go back to season 1, episode 1, and go do the whole things. And so we have a
Awesome.
really in-depth conversation with Thomas, in that, in a Tie on That Guy conversation with him, where we go back into his past and him living in LA, and struggling as an actor and living on the streets. And it's just a fascinating guy and fascinating stories, and his perseverance, and working and then, making it in the business. And, so many interesting stories, but he's just somebody that I find just very interesting. I think he's extremely talented. He's really intelligent. He's almost innocent in a way of like all the negative. He's very aware, but he's not a part of it. I don't think I've ever heard him say like a bad word about anybody. He doesn't have that bone, but he's a really special guy. I mean, I love Thomas.
And what a character on the show as well. And who knows, he might be back, because we all thought he had gone, and he appears back. Not spoiling it for anyone, but they should be watching it, so it's their own fault if I've spoiled something there. Also, in the show, the Belter language, I just think, is astonishing. After looking on the internet, I don't know if you're aware, but there are 8 levels of curse words in Belter language, which I was astonished by. I really am. Do you know any Belter words? What's your favorite Belter word?
So I haven't. So every season, you'll start to pick it up, and you'll say it, and you'll talk or whatever. But the way that my mind works is like when I'm done at work, like I have a memory wipe. And then I go off and I'll do other things or whatever. I don't think about it. And then when I come back, it takes a couple of weeks. It takes before I start like, oh yeah, and everything. But so I'm definitely just coming back from the shutdown and just getting back to work. I'm still in the memory wipe phase of it. So as of right now, I don't have any Belter words that come to mind.
Well, my favorite is Awala, which
I was going to say Awala. Like it doesn't
go, really?
Well, Awala, like
yeah.
he says it to him in like either 1 or 2. Yeah. And the guy giving the speech, and then, he has his 3 fingers like that, does that.
And the great thing, it's going to be my word of the day at work tomorrow. I'm going to call all my staff Awala and see if they figure it out. They won't figure it out unless they've obviously seen it, and then we'll do a big high five. So Amos has got quite a few
Well, shit, man, I feel bad for keeping you up, and you got to go to work tomorrow.
It's all right, mate. It's all right. Okay. Only a few more questions. Don't you worry, my friend.
Okay, where do you work? Where do you work?
Where do I work? So I work at a big supermarket. I'm a phone shop manager. So literally, I deal with mobile phones all day.
In what town is this? What town?
So this is in Mansfield. So it's in the middle of Sherwood Forest country. So where Robin Hood's from.
Yeah, that's great.
So that's where I am. The Midlands, as it's classed as.
I haven't really gotten the chance to explore the English countryside.
It's fantastic.
I know I would love to, because I'm fascinated. Like I am obsessed with small towns, and I love the country. I love that. That's mainly where I am in the States. As land and woods and stuff like that. So I really want to do a good English countryside tour.
You know what? You should. And the Peak District, where I am, is absolutely beautiful. I mean, 10 minutes drive from where I live is where they filmed The Princess Bride. I don't know if you've watched that
That's one of
film.
my favorites.
So it's where they actually filmed it all there, and you've got a lot of country houses where they filmed all the period dramas. So it's so picturesque. It's really, really nice. But when it snows and it's bad weather, it's like game over. Because as Brits, we can't deal with bad weather. So if it snows, everything stops. Unlike
Do you guys
every
get a
other
lot of
country.
snow?
You know what? We don't. But when we do, like we've got snow now. So, everything stops. People just don't drive properly. They don't behave properly. So there's crashes everywhere. And it makes the news. It's just devastating, to be fair. But what I wanted to ask about your tattoos for Amos, have they got any meaning? Because you've got some awesome tattoos, on your arms. I mean, do they have any meaning? I presume they do, or is it?
They do.
Just looks-
They do have meaning, and then the devil pin and all those things. They do have meaning, and we kind of strategically picked them and the placement, whatever. But at this point, it's kind of something that is kind of like the Amos knows, like why he's has it or whatever, and kind of going through it. And so, maybe when it's all over and everything's done, we can talk about all those things. But right now, it's kind of like these are all events and ships and things, from his past that that kind of he keeps to himself.
And what's your opinion of fans getting tattoos just like Amos? Because I've seen some pictures of fans getting tattoos exactly like yours.
I think it's cool. I mean, I think and that's part of the reason that we did Tying That Guy is that what I realized is that when we would go, like if I meet people out in town or if I meet people whatever, and they love the Expanse and they come up and we start talking, we always love a lot of the same things in common, and I always have these great conversations. And before the shutdown, we would go do Comic-Cons and meet all these great people, and I always had such a good time. And I always realized that at Comic-Cons we were all into the same stuff. So Ty, one of the James S.A. Corey, authors of the book, he was like, well, Amazon asked us to do this after show, and we did it, and we thought it was really cool because not only do we talk about the Expanse, but we talk about all the things that we think Expanse fans would find interesting, and we really enjoyed it. And then, which the actual podcast hasn't came out yet; it'll come out in 2 weeks, but we've shot a lot of them, or we've recorded a lot of them. And it's really going in depth, like with Thomas Jane or Ron Perlman or, these people that, and, friends. And then we just go in deep dive at them, but we also go deep dive into like different movies and different TV shows and also the Expanse. So it's just a way to kind of continue hanging out with the fans and engaging in with them and talking with them and, talk about Expanse, because now we can't do it because of COVID.
Yeah, of course. And how is COVID affecting you currently with you and your family? Is everyone doing okay, keeping safe?
Yeah. I mean, we've been keeping safe, and like I said, I love the country, so I have a place south of Atlanta, surrounded by hundreds of acres or whatever, and that's where I was the whole time. So I was out, I was clearing property and working out in the woods all day, and so it was good for my mental health just to get out and get and work on something. So that's what I did.
So basically a Rocky montage then.
Rocky 4 montage. Getting ready for Dolph Lundgren.
If he dies, he dies. Do you know what? Do you know, one of my favorite movies of all time, it really is the Rocky anthology. I think it's awesome. But Wes, thank you so much for chatting.
I got to work with Rocky, right? I got to work with Rocky
on Escape Plan 2.
Escape Plan 2. So I'm like you. I think Rocky 1 and the first Rambo, the First Blood, is like one of my all-time favorites. And when Escape Plan came about, and and then I realized like I gotta we have this great epic fight scene with Rocky. Man, that was a dream. You talk about a dream come true, man. Getting to meet him, and we were in the middle of the scene, and you throw a punch, and he goes, "Ooh!" and you're like, "That's That's fucking Rocky, man. Yeah, oh, it's crazy.
And what did you think of Rocky 5? Are you a fan? You know, the Tommy
Yeah.
Gunn one.
Yeah. I'm a fan of all the Rockies until the later ones. I think 5 is the last of the early ones. I didn't love them as much as I liked the other ones. But anytime Stallone is Rocky, I'm in.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I'm always gonna like it as much as the beginning. The magic and the nostalgia has definitely wore off in some ways, but he's still God made him for that. But the later ones, like I wasn't I don't acknowledge him.
You see, for me, Rocky Balboa, I thought was a good sort of close to the.
Well, I didn't see
string
that.
of them.
I didn't see that one. Is it something worth seeing?
Yeah, I think the rest. I thought no, but Rocky Balboa was, it was sort of a close to the the series of films, because Rocky 5, was good. Tommy Gunn was good. But I just thought Rocky Balboa definitely sealed it all off. And, I'm that much of a fan. I've been to Philadelphia and I've ran up the steps in the pouring rain, and just fantastic. Absolute amazing movies. But Wes, I'll let you get on, because I know obviously it's late here. But thank you so much for your time. And I've got to say, absolutely think the show is immense. And I can't wait for future things. I can't wait to see what happens on the next episode 9, on Wednesday. I'll definitely be watching that, on the edge of my seat. I really am. And continue the great work. Stay safe and look after yourself.
Yeah, same for you, Brian. Thanks for having me. It's a good time. And when you look at episode 9 this Wednesday, there's a shot there. There's a type of shot that's never been done on The Expanse before, and it still blows my mind when I watch it that they pulled it off. So,
right. Okay. So can you explain, or is it best to leave it to?
I'll say this: that the director Breck Eisner went and saw. Breck Eisner, our director who directed 9, went and saw 1917, and he was floored like everybody was, and inspired. And you'll see how he's inspired when you watch episode 9.
So from that, I'm taking a one-shot piece of magic that is going to blow our socks off. So I cannot wait. Wes, look after yourself. Keep up the good work, and you'll always be my favourite on the show. And I can't wait to see what's going to. Forget the rest. Let's have an Amos spin-off show. When this is all over, I want to see Amos in his own show or movie. That would be awesome. And I'm sure the fans will be completely behind you.
I appreciate it, Brian. This is a good time. Thanks for having me, buddy.